The Vietnam War, a major conflict of the Cold War, was a battle in Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia from 1955 to 1975. It was the second of the Indochina Wars, fought between North Vietnam, supported by the Soviet Union, China, and other communist states, and South Vietnam, backed by the United States and other anti-communist allies. After the fall of French Indochina in 1954, Vietnam gained independence from France, but was divided into two parts. The Viet Minh took control of North Vietnam, while the U.S. assumed financial and military support for South Vietnam. The Viet Cong, a South Vietnamese common front under the direction of the North, initiated a guerrilla war in the South. U.S. involvement increased under President John F. Kennedy from just under 1,000 military advisors in 1959 to 23,000 by 1964. Following the Gulf of Tonkin incident in 1964, the U.S. Congress passed a resolution that gave President Lyndon B. Johnson broad authority to increase U.S. military presence in Vietnam, without a formal declaration of war. U.S. and South Vietnamese forces relied on air superiority and overwhelming firepower to conduct search and destroy operations, involving ground forces, artillery, and airstrikes. In 1968, North Vietnamese forces launched the Tet Offensive. Though it was a tactical defeat for them, it was a strategic victory, as it caused U.S. domestic support for the war to fade. After the election of Richard Nixon in 1969, a policy of Vietnamization began, which saw the conflict fought by an expanded ARVN, while U.S. forces withdrew in the face of increasing domestic opposition. The Paris Peace Accords of January 1973 saw all U.S. forces withdrawn. Accords were broken almost immediately, and fighting continued for 2 more years. The war ended with the fall of Saigon to the PAVN on 30th April 1975. The war exacted an enormous human cost. Estimates of the number of Vietnamese soldiers and civilians killed range from 966,000 to 3 million. Some 275,000 are 310,000 Cambodians, 20,000 are 62,000 Laotians, and 220 U.S. service members also died in the conflict. The end of the Vietnam War would precipitate the Vietnamese boat people and the larger Indochina refugee crisis, which saw millions of refugees leave Indochina, an estimated 250,000 of whom perished at sea. The Vietnam War is one of the most significant events of the 20th century. It not only shaped the political landscape of Southeast Asia, but also had profound effects on the global stage, particularly in the United States, where it gave rise to what was referred to as Vietnam Syndrome, a public aversion to American overseas military involvements.